Okay, everyone, thank you for tuning in. Welcome to Optimize Your Body with Martin Silva. And today I'm proud to announce I have my friend and fitness guru, Jamie Alderton, aka Grenade J, over in the UK here on Skype. How you doing over there, mate?
I'm good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. What's the weather like there now? I heard it was quite cold.
Horrendous. You know, you guys over in Australia sit there smiling with your son and everything else like that, and you know, no wonder you guys are always happy over there. It's dark, it's cold, and it's miserable, but I kind of like it. You know, I do kind of like it. So
that's the thing with the UK, and it's weird. I kind of didn't think I would miss it that much, but the cold weather is something about it. It's just part of the grind, isn't it? Part of the UK grind.
Exactly, yeah.
So just wanted to pick your brains a bit today, mate, and try and give the listeners a bit of advice on how to get in shape, look after themselves, and some business tips and hacks from yourself as well, James. So thank you for chiming in, mate, and helping me out here.
More than welcome.
Appreciate it. What I noticed on your I looking on your Instagram recently, and I saw a post which really caught my eye about making mistakes and keeping momentum. I just wanted to ask this question first because when it comes to like people I've trained and just in general people trying to make progress regardless of what they're doing, whether it's in business or health and fitness or whatnot, and myself as well, I kind of slip up sometimes when it comes to momentum and keeping that consistency. And use the analogy. What was the analogy you used again, mate? If you can just run through that for me.
Was it like, so the mistakes over momentum? What I spoke about was from one of my favourite books, and it's Psycho-Cybernetics by Dr. Maxwell Maltz. And the analogy is about a bike. Sounds a bit strange, but when a bike is stationary, it's very unstable. And it's very much like us in life. When we are stable, as in we have no goals, we have no momentum, we kind of get wobbly and we kind of get lost. And once we get that momentum back and we start moving, very much like a bike, it's very much easier to control. And regardless of what it is, it's so important to have that momentum, because what happens is very much like people losing weight. You know, they get very motivated that they're losing weight, etc., and then something happens and they stop. And everything kind of changes. And everyone knows when they've got a plan, when they've got a program, when they've got something in their head they want to do, everything changes. You know, you come from a competitor background, I come from a competitor background. When we've got that competition date in our head, something in us changes. You know, we've got something to look forward to, we've got something to focus on, and we've got an outcome-based goal. And it's very easy to stabilize your life. When you haven't got that thing, you're kind of confused, you're kind of, wobbly, and that's very much like the analogy of the bike. You know, one thing I say is it's so important to keep momentum in your life, to keep moving forward. And the trouble with a lot of people is that they do get that momentum, but they lose it so much, and they lose it because as soon as they make a mistake, as soon as they mess up, they go back to stationary instead of learning from it and going, what's the takeaway point, and then continuing with that momentum.
That's it. Yeah, they get a bit disheartened, and that's right. Then they kind of lose that motivation and drive to keep pushing forward, isn't it?
Yes.
So yeah, I agree with that. And just to delve a little bit deeper into that as well. Jamie actually coached me for my most recent show, which was in the summer of 2016. That was my first professional show as a professional competitor, and in the World Championships out in Toronto. And Jamie was my coach. And as he was saying then, in regards to when you have a competition, you have to throw everything in, including the kitchen sink. And I would just like to pick your brains a little bit more about prepping people and how you find it from person to person. Because with myself, obviously, I think we've done about a 12-week prep altogether, because I was already lean 12 weeks out, and then we just kind of went from there. How did you how do you manage to kind of like adapt to each person when it comes to coaching people and getting people, in razor sharp condition, ready for these competitions, because everyone's so different with their metabolisms and stuff like that. How do you actually manage to, because I know you get some really good results with clients, including myself. The condition I brought to the stage I was happy with. So
yeah, I mean, I don't prep anyone anymore, but the last person I prepped was AJ Ellison, who became the WBFF World Muscle muscle model champion, so that I kind of finished on a high before with the end of my comp prep.
While you're ahead.
Yeah, exactly. For me, and I'll be brutally honest with you, prepping athletes for stage is the easiest thing in the world. And the reason that it's the easiest thing in the world is that you're prepping athletes, you're prepping people who stick to a plan. You're prepping people who you can give a piece of paper to and tell them to follow it to the gram, and 99% of them follow it. And it's the same as anything. You follow the plan, you get results. It's easy. You're dealing with people who've got lots of training years under their belt, etc., etc., etc. It is an easy job. Yeah. The hard job is getting someone in shape or losing weight who has got all the bad habits, who has weak adherence levels, who is not very self-confident, and all of these kind of things. That for me, that's always been the real challenge, and that's kind of why I came away from comp prep and then moved more towards, as with anything that I do in life, I like to challenge myself and push towards something a lot more difficult. And
okay,
yeah,
thanks for that. Yeah, and so I guess by what you're saying, it's mindset. Obviously, as we all know, it requires a hell of a lot of self-discipline to get on stage. But
what I'll say is, a lot of athletes, and one thing you probably don't know is a lot of athletes that I've prepped in the past, their diets and their training is shocking. Literally, nearly every world champion, pro, etc., etc. Every person that I've worked with, their diet is rubbish. They eat too little, they train too much, and what makes them different to other people isn't the nutrition, it isn't the training, it's the mindset. They can push harder physically and mentally than most people, which is why they look like that. It's no magic potion or pill. Yeah, okay, some of them might be taking drugs, etc., etc. But what we're trying to get down is to the nitty gritty of the mindset, and that's something that I speak a lot about. These guys, these girls, they just push harder than most people, and regardless of what it is that they're doing, they adhere to the basic fundamentals of fat loss. They keep consistent, they keep focused, they've got that outcome-based goal in mind, and they get a result. So from a coach's point of view, it's giving them the right plan of action, giving them the adequate amount of calories, listening to their wants and needs, getting that feedback on their energy levels, and just tweaking and changing a few things, because that there's no variables outside of that. When you're working with a normal person, shall we say, you've got to take into account their social life, their alcohol, their family, lots of other things, which to most people is a priority over getting ready for a show, especially when it comes to weight loss.
Sure. That's right. Yeah, I agree with that. And so that mindset is vital, really, isn't it?
Very much so.
Especially when it comes to competing at that level, and when you're being critiqued, next to other people who are also put everything into it, you've got to be on your game. So it's just all about that self-discipline and drive, isn't it, really? But just relating to what you said then, because one of the main kind of drivers behind me starting this podcast was, to help people obtain just good health, get themselves in shape, and sustain it for a lifetime. So, the on and off kind of mentality, and as you were saying then, people sometimes they just don't have that mindset just to actually mold health and fitness, nutrition into their lifestyle, and it's kind of like they're on or off. So it's like they're going hell for leather, and they're dialed, and as you said then, most of the time in that situation, they're not actually eating enough calories, and they're probably overtraining, if anything, or maybe not training properly, and putting their body under too much stress. Just any tips you have to help people kind of learn how to mold health and fitness into a lifestyle which they can sustain for a lifetime, and not kind of, hit a wall and rebound and then go back to square one again, because this is the battle I have with people, and this is what I'm trying to really help people achieve.
So I like to do a lot of analogies and make it very, very relatable. So I'm gonna take this back to you can drive a car, Martin. Yeah, just checking. So this wouldn't work if you couldn't drive a car. So
I can drive a car.
Brilliant.
Sure.
Okay, cool.
About.
You almost messed up my analogy, but it's all good. So the first lesson that you learned how to drive, what did you do? Did you jump on a motorway and overtake cars and do a parallel park?
Hell no, otherwise I wouldn't be here now, mate.
No.
I'd be dead.
No, what did you do? You went down a little street corner. You learned you learned the pedals. You learned the indicators, and that first hour, more or less, that's probably all you learned.
That's right. Yeah, literally just talking for most of it. Yeah, to the guy.
Exactly. So that's all your brain could comprehend when it comes to driving. Now, I guarantee that you've driven to places before, and you can't even remember how you got there. You've got there
That's right.
somehow. Now,
kind of in autopilot mode. Yeah.
Exactly. So what's changed there? What's changed from suddenly not even knowing where the indicator is, not even knowing how to, work that clutch and brake, to driving somewhere without even thinking about it and getting to your destination?
It's experience, it's what you've learned, and then just adapting to doing it all the time. So practicing it, day in, day out.
So it's January the 1st, and let's have a look at this as the analogy. You're unhappy, you wanna get in shape, you want to get your abs and stuff like that. But that outcome-based goal is very much like driving on a motorway and getting to your destination without thinking about it. Unfortunately, that day one, that first week, you are trying to drive on that motorway and do everything when you should be just learning how to indicate and work the accelerator and brake. And I
love that analogy.
And what I mean by that is that so many people don't understand habits. They don't understand how your brain works. You can't go hell for leather from week one and expect to keep consistent with that, because your brain doesn't work like that. The reason that I stay in shape year round, and you've seen this with regards to you coming down the train here. I wasn't even competing. I stay in good shape. And people say, how do you manage to stay in good shape? I'm like, because and they get confused when I say because I drive a car and I don't even know how I got to the destination. They're like, what? But if I told you that analogy now, my fitness is like driving that car. I eat healthily without thinking about it. I go to the gym without thinking, I need to go to the gym. I eyeball food and know exactly more or less what I need to eat in order to stay my body weight, because I've been doing this for 20 years. Just like if you spent 20 years driving a car, you don't need to think about indicator, brake, acceleration, etc., etc., etc. It just happens. So what you need to do when it comes to getting in shape is keep it simple. Do one or two things daily that are easy for you to do, and then work from there. Because what will happen is, if you let's just say the very basics of fat loss is maintaining a calorie deficit. We're not even going to go into calories now. What we're going to say is, right, I want you to walk 10,000 steps a day. I want you to drink 2 litres of water a day, and I want you to eat 3 good meals and a snack. That's all I want you to do for 2 weeks. I'll tell you what will happen to 99% of people that do that. If they are overweight, if they are very unhealthy and they need to lose weight, they'll probably drop 6 to 10 pounds just doing those 3 habits. Now, how hard are those 3 habits to do?
No, they're not very hard at all.
Exactly.
Easy.
Exactly.
Just some small changes. Yeah.
But what's going to happen when you lose 6 to 10 pounds? It wasn't that hard to lose it. Are you going to be a little bit more in on this weight loss thing? Especially as you've lost 6 pounds and you didn't really think about it.
Absolutely.
This is where habits happen. There's a great book called The Power of Habit by a guy called Charles Duhigg, and what he talks about is 3 things: cue, reaction, reward. This is what builds up. This is what keeps you having bad habits, and this is also what gives you good habits. Now, the reason that we continue having bad habits is we get a reward from it. The reason that we go out on the piss with our mates on a Friday is because it feels great. It's good to socialise, it's good to have a laugh. And that's why you can't stop doing it, because you remember how much fun it was. This is so much that you need to think about when it comes to the gym. The reason you can't keep consistent with the gym is you've yet to see the reward from your efforts. And I've had clients before that really struggle with adhering to a plan of action. I had a guy that was really, really struggling with his nutrition and his training. He'd lost about a stone, but he was feeling a bit deflated. The next week, he saw an old school friend, and the school friend didn't even recognise him. He goes, wow, you look incredible. You look amazing. What have you been doing? That changed his brain straight away, because although he couldn't see the changes, somebody that he hadn't seen for 20 years had noticed, and instantly he just changed. He kept consistent with his diet, he kept consistent with his training, and he loved the process, because there's this little thing in his head now that says, if I go to the gym, I get more of that thing that made me feel really good last week. So it's the triggers in your head, and it's the reasonings behind doing it. You need to think of a reward for doing it, but also, in order for you to see that reward, you need to have a little small win. So to do something really, really easy for 2 weeks and lose £10, you're going to invest more time and effort into it because you've seen the reward.
Yeah, exactly. The Power of Habit by, what was the name of the author, sorry?
Charles Duhigg.
Charles Duhigg. So The Power of Habit, folks, by Charles Duhigg. And also, whilst we're on the topic of books, Mindset with Muscle, isn't it? Your book.
It is indeed,
which I actually still haven't read it, and I'm going to get on that.
How dare you?
Next
How dare
week.
you? Get in the habit.
I know.
Well, I say a good habit for everyone to do, and there's lots of things that I talk about when it comes to getting shit done, essentially. If I put 34 books on your desk, Martin, and said I need those books all read by the end of the year, the chances are you probably read 3 or 4, and then you wouldn't get the rest in because you don't think you've got enough time. But if I said to you, right, all I want you to do, I'm not even going to put the 34 books on your desk. All I'm going to ask you to do is allocate 10 minutes a day to read one chapter. That's it. Can you do that? Of course you can. Anyone's got 10 minutes to read one chapter.
Definitely.
If you compounded that every single day, 7 days a week for a year, you would have read 34 books. And it's looking at all these things.
Just taking one step at a time, isn't it? It's just going back to basics and taking one step at a time. Then that's what I kind of advise my clients to do as well. It's understanding small changes.
Yeah, and it's understanding where that time is wasted. Like people say, you need to brush your teeth 2 minutes before you go to bed and 2 minutes when you wake up. That's 4 minutes a day. If you compound that into a year, that's 24.2 hours. What do you do when you brush your teeth? Not a lot. Not a lot. You stare at
you don't do much at all. I was going to say you threw me a bit there. I was like, I don't know. What do you do?
Well, brushing your teeth is one of those things. Probably only things that you could do something else whilst doing. Yeah. Everyone knows how to brush their teeth, and you can
piece of cake.
Yeah, exactly. So you just think
you're on fire with the analogies. I got to say, mate, you're absolutely on fire.
It's been a while. It's been a while since I'm on a podcast, but this is just giving you a perspective on.
Yep.
The reason that people don't get so much stuff done is that they get overwhelmed because they've got too much of it to get done. If you break things down, if you reverse engineer things, and you just focus on the simple things daily that are easy to do, within a year's time, that makes a big difference. Going to the gym hell for leather for a month might get a quick result, but if you compared that result over a year, okay, you've lost £10, but you've gained that £10 back, and then you've lost £2. So in a year, your total weight loss is £12. Yet, it's very easy to consistently lose £2 a month. But at the end of the year, that's £24. So in actual fact, to do something easier every single month, at the end of that year, you've doubled your results. And
it's the compound effect, isn't it? Yeah.
It's all about being patient. And this is what a lot of people aren't when it comes to getting results. Because the reason being is, and the hardest thing with weight loss is, it's very painful. When people are overweight, they're not very confident, and they think that they'll get that confidence back when their gravitational pull to the earth is a little bit less. And it's not true. You don't want to kill yourself to get a result, because the only way that you've seen that you've got that result is from killing yourself. And how much do you want to kill yourself for a year? Do you want to suffer for like you have been for a month for the entire year? When are you?
And can the body take that? How long can the body take that for anyway? Isn't it? It's going to take it for much longer than you.
And exactly. And when you look at that effect of small daily practices equate to huge results over time, then you're playing a longer game, and you're not as overwhelmed and stressed, because our brains are very conditioned for instant gratification. This is why people get excited. This is why people get dopamine rushes when they get a notification pop up on their emails.
They get a like on their Instagram.
Exactly, and
delayed gratification is where the success is at, isn't it?
Yeah, very very much so. But the thing is that our brains aren't conditioned to have kind of I've forgotten what the word is now. So very much, I'm trying to think of what the word is now. I've totally forgotten. I was going to go off on another ramble, but
that's right, mate. I'll leave you think. I can't really think of it at 5 a.m. in the morning, mate, to be honest. So I'll leave you think.
So we've got very much like, let's say we've got an
instinctive kind of thing, is it?
Yeah, well, we've got an instant gratification, we've got delayed gratification. Okay, our brains are very much conditioned to be instant gratification. Let's go back to thousands of years. With our brains, and before we had Facebook and mobile phones and stuff like that, if we were hungry, what would happen? Stress would happen. And then it would cause us to take action to find food. We'd find food, we'd eat, we'd be fine. If it starts raining, we'll get stressed. Stress makes us cause action. We get under some shelter, and that stress goes down. instantly we reduce stress, because as soon as that stress happens, it calls us into action, because that's why we get stressed. We get stressed because it's our body saying we need to do something.
That's right.
But then what
There's
happens?
non-stop stress nowadays, isn't it? Non-stop with technology and whatnot.
Yeah, but that's the same thing. It's like we haven't got that instant gratification. Let's just say we are 30 pounds overweight.
Yep.
And that causes you stress to take action. And you are in a calorie deficit for 24 hours. What happens? You lose a little bit of weight, but you're still overweight. So you're still stressed. So you're stressed for long periods of time. You see where I'm coming from that? It's just like people are conditioned to get a result straight away.
That's it.
Not for that delayed gratification of daily practices. Okay.
That's it.
Consistently.
I know. Whilst you're talking about that, this is actually along the same lines now. I wanted to ask, because being where you are now and what you've achieved over the last, say, it's quite a short amount of time, really, really short amount of time, considering what you've actually achieved and what you've done. Where do you get the confidence, and where do you get the motivation and drive? Because being consistent and actually continuing to push forward and doing those little things day in, day out is obviously what's got you to where you are in terms of, the podcast, really successful. You got your book, you got your gym. That takes a lot of hard work day in, day out. It's not like one of those things where it's not like a job you can do, pick up and drop it off every now and then. It's non-stop. So where do you, is it, what have you got any tips for me and the listeners in terms of what you applied to actually be so consistent day in, day out?
Okay, so there's two things. First and foremost, it's all your fault. And this is something that I love saying to people, and as well as myself. Wake up, look around you. If you have the woman or man of your dreams by your side, if you've got the car you want, if you've got the house you want, if you've got everything there, that's your fault. You've created that. That's been your decision and your choice, and you've made that. If you haven't got those things, that's also your fault, because you've made those choices in order to have those things. Now, people can get triggered by that, but it's true, because people say, well, it's not my fault. And what's happening, you're blaming somebody else. And the easiest thing to do is blame somebody else for your problems, because what happens, if you blame someone else and it's not your fault, then the stress is instantly reduced and you don't have to do anything about it. If you understand that it is your fault, then you need to do something about it. People can say, oh, well, I'm overweight. It's not my fault. All my family are overweight. And it's just like, well, that's a cop-out.
It's not my fault I smashed all those cakes in and all that chocolate in McDonald's day in, day out for 5 years. It's not my fault, though.
Yeah. And the biggest thing is just accept full responsibility for your actions. If you haven't done the stuff, own up to it. If you have done the stuff, own up to it. What will happen then is not only are you being honest with other people around you, you're being honest with yourself. So that's one of the biggest things that I say to myself is accept full responsibility for where I am. Things are going to happen to you. Shit's going to happen. I can list off another podcast about the shit that's happened to me over the last couple of years.
No doubt.
Yeah, literally. But I've just learned from it. I've dealt with it, and I've got on. And
daily accountability then, isn't it? As you say, it's just being accountable for your own actions.
Yeah, and a great quote: life is 10% what happens to you and 90% how you deal with it.
Yeah, exactly.
And another analogy, as you know, I like analogies. If you're playing a game of poker and you get dealt a bad hand, just because you've got dealt a bad hand doesn't mean you can't win the game. And the thing is we all get dealt bad hands from time to time. But the difference is we can still win the game because it's all about strategy. So that's the most important thing. Secondly, you're good enough. And this might sound cheesy and woo-woo, but it is. A lot of people, when they do seminars, they talk about the first thing to do in the slide is a bit of an introduction of your achievements. And the reason that so many people put those achievements up is to say why you should listen to me. All of my achievements, I've done this, I've done that, I've done that, I've done that, I've done that. This is why you should listen to me. Now, I've kind of turned that on my head, on its head for my last seminars, where my first slide is everything that I failed at and everything that I'm shit at. So my first thing that I do is I failed most of my GCSEs. I spent most of my college time getting pissed. Didn't get my certification. This. But the whole point is all of those failures, and I'm still standing on this stage talking to all you guys. And the whole reason for that is I am nothing special just as much as you are nothing special. The only difference is I've taken action with those unlimited technological tools that are around you. You've got this thing in your pocket called an iPhone, or if you're a little bit poor, an Android phone, and everyone has Google. You have this amazing machine in your pocket that can make you skinny, rich, and happy. The biggest problem is that no one knows how to use it, because there's an abundance of information out there, and people are constantly distracted. So we live in a time now where it's not about not getting enough information. It's about finding ways to be less distracted so you can get shit done. And understanding that everyone, you do not need to, and this is the most important thing, you do not need to be intelligent these days at all. I can sit there, I can have no GCSEs, no qualifications, nothing, and I can have an intelligent conversation with somebody else on the other end because I've got Google, and so have they. You can pull any kind of information from anywhere. Technology. But also it's like, well, that's all well and good, but what are you doing with that information to better your life? And that is the most important thing that I say to people, is that you are good enough. It's just that you need to focus your attention on the things that you are good at doing and do them. And guess what? You can monitor whatever that is. You can get very good at that, because the chances are, if you think about it, there is something that you do better than anybody else. And whatever that is, instead of trying to get better at the things that you're shit at, get very good at the thing that you're better than most people at. And within a year of that control focus, it'll be if that thing that you're better at anyone else has immense amount of value to other people, you can turn that into a business. And that could be anything, because people need help all the time. I remember going to London, and they've thought of everything. I remember going to London, and I was looking for a car park, and there was an app where people who live in London can rent out their parking spaces. So actually I went on this app and went to a place in Mayfair and rented a person's parking space for 2 hours. Someone actually thought about that and thought, wouldn't that be clever? Most people don't use these, and a lot of people commute into London. We can make some money off this. People of London can make some money off this, etc., etc. There's an app which will pick up your ironing and iron it for you and drop it back off at your door. There's Deliveroo, where people, I remember...
that's it. Yeah. That's what I was going to come to. Go on, carry on. Sorry.
Well, when I was a kid, when I was 12, 13, and there was this great thing that we used to do. You used to call the taxi company up and pay them an extra £5 if they go to McDonald's and pick you up at Mackie D's and drive it to your house. So you pay for the taxi to come to your house, and then you pay for the McDonald's and you give them an extra £5. I guarantee someone's gone, well, wouldn't that be good if a company does that, where I can get any takeaway and someone delivers it to my door? There's so much stuff that you can think of out there. I've got 900 notes on my phone of little ideas, little business ideas like that. The sky's the limit. You've got the technology now. You've just got to have the ideas, and the most important thing, you've got to put it into action.
Definitely. And there's a really good book, actually, which is called Irresistible. It's by Adam Alter. I don't know if you've read that, but it's all about what you were talking about then, how we are just distracted nonstop. And I think I've seen one of your posts recently, actually, regarding social media and how it's just a waste of time, isn't it? Scrolling, clicking, checking. And the average person spends about 2.5 to 3 hours a day on social media alone. The average person spends about 3 to 4 hours glued to their phone, literally just doing nothing. So we have more information available to us than ever, right? Just as you were saying then, on a digital level, we have more information available to us than ever, but we also are bombarded with all this bullshit, essentially. So it's just siphoning out all the rubbish stuff and just tuning in to what's actually going to benefit you, isn't it? Which is the hard thing. But just about yours. Go on. Sorry, mate.
Yeah, very much so. I say to a lot of people is like, how long have you been on Facebook for today, and what have you learned to better your life? The chances are you've learned sod all. Because you don't go on Facebook to learn stuff. You go on there to be distracted and entertained. And and this is true. There's so many educators out there that are trying to educate people on Facebook, and the thing is, it doesn't work. They've got some of the brightest minds there doing seminars which are like 45 minutes long, which will change your life. But if you look at the statistics on Facebook of the most engaged videos, they average between 30 and 45 seconds. So, how are you going to learn complex information in 30 to 45 seconds? You're not. But if you're on that platform, you've got to play the game of the platform. So if you want your information to be out there, there's no point in doing a 45-minute video. It's a 30 to 45-second video. And that's the reality, is that it's, what works on Facebook, what works on a lot of platforms like Instagram is infotainment. So it's finding ways of getting the information out there as quickly as possible for more people to want to learn more. And it's a very hard thing to do. But the reality is no one goes to learn shit on Facebook. Simple as that.
No, that's it.
And there are some amazing apps, and I'll tell you, a lot of people like to know, what are these amazing apps? If you want to get more motivated, if you want to literally level up your life, 3 apps you kind of need. Medium. It's medium.com. It's a blogging app. I literally, if I want to...
I'll write this one down now.
Yeah, if I want to be distracted, so to speak, and I've got a little bit of time, I don't go on Facebook, I'll go on Medium, and I read a blog from smart people who can help me better my life. So that's medium.com. Yeah. If you've got an iPhone, iTunes University. Now, I guarantee most of you out there have never even heard of that app.
I haven't heard of that, mate. I'm writing it down now.
And if it's the App Store, it's on your phone. Yeah, and iTunes University you can basically go to Oxford University and do their entire syllabus for free. You can go to Yale. You can go do philosophy, psychology. You can basically get every single piece of content that you would pay £30,000 a year to go to college and university to get for free on your phone. And they do it both in they do the entire thing in audio as well. So if there's anything that you want to learn, go onto iTunes University. If it's a language, if you want to learn a language, completely free, iTunes University. So that's
really?
Yep. So if you want to learn Spanish, Australian, just go onto iTunes.
I was looking at learning Spanish, actually. That was one of my goals. I don't know why. I just wanted to learn a language. I'll check that out.
So iTunes University.
And what was the third one? You said there was 3 apps. What was the third app?
Podcast app, which no doubt this will be on. So,
definitely.
But a lot of people that I've spoken to have never even clicked on the podcast app. I found that podcast app in 2013, and that changed my life. That's literally what changed my way of thinking. I was getting ready for a show. I was doing lots of walks, lots of cardio, and I was just listening to the podcast, and I was like, wow, literally transformed the way that I thought. Then I launched my own podcast, and that was crazy. So
100%. It changed the game for me as well. Just listening to the podcasts. Honestly, just how fast I learned just listening non-stop, day in, day out. And it's actually enjoyable. You're listening to different stations, which you actually find entertaining as well, going back to the entertainment element. And I just absorb information much. I mean, reading books is really effective as well, but you can just it's much more convenient with podcasts, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think you can multitask, which is the main thing. You know, like when you read, you've got a lot of distractions stopping you from reading, but if you are listening, the chances are you're in one of 3 places. You're either out walking your dog, you're in your car, or you're on a treadmill or something like that. You're in places where you're not being distracted, and you've got undivided attention to that thing. And it all comes down to how you learn as well. There's 3 obviously different ways of learning. You've got audible, kinesthetic, and you've got visual. So I'm very much auditory. So I'm very much a auditory and visual learner. So I learn from watching YouTube videos. I learn from listening. But a lot of people can't. A lot of people see something and they need to get their hands on it in order to see it. In order for it to work, and that's very much
and that's kinesthetic.
Yeah, and I know so many people like coaching clients and stuff like that. I know a lot of PTs that they'll watch a video, let's just say a video on how to squat, and they just can't get it. They're the kind of people that need to get under the bar and they need to
perform it,
and they need to perform it. So it's understanding how you best learn. And another great quote is a fish will forever think it's stupid if it's judged on its ability to climb a tree. And the reason that analogy is so strong is that there's so many fishes out there trying to climb trees when they should be swimming in seas. There's so many people trying to absorb information from a book when they should be listening to it in their ear. So think about that. If you're not absorbing information from a book, maybe that's not the best way for you to learn. Maybe it might be from a YouTube video, it might be from a podcast. Try a few different ways, and you'll know when you try it because you'll remember that information. Awesome.
And your story, I just wanted, because you haven't actually kind of convey to the listeners yet your story. So I'd like you, if you can, just briefly, just to run through your story, because you gave me a lowdown when I came to your gym. You ran through your story in terms of, you were in the army, then you got made redundant. If you can just run through that quickly, just to motivate the listeners and give them kick up the ass.
So very much so. I mean, I was in the army for 7 years. I left. I worked in IT for a year. This was about 2009. I left the army. 2010, I worked in IT for a year. Then I got a great job because I was in the army. I had a high security clearance. So I worked abroad. I worked in the Middle East. I worked in Iraq. I worked in Kuwait, and then I moved over from there to another contract where I worked for the UN in Kenya and Somalia as a security advisor. From there, I got made redundant in 2012, and it was a pretty tough time. I had just bought a house and put all of my savings on the house, and then I got made redundant, and I was like, oh shit. I remember getting on the plane back, not knowing what I wanted to do in my life, and I had about £800 in the bank, and that's a huge change in my life. So I started writing things down and asked myself what I really wanted to do with my life, and everything pointed towards personal training. And I'd never thought of doing it before, and the reason being is that I would go to a gym and I'd look at all these miserable personal trainers working every hour under the sun, not enjoying their job, and I assumed, right, I don't want to do that because I love training, but if I was to do it 10 hours a day, I might end up resent doing it. Worst thing that I could have ever said, because as soon as I started doing it, and literally I had 800 quid in the bank, and I was like, right, I need to find somewhere. I managed to find a studio about 6 miles up the road on an industrial estate, put about 16 grand on my credit card, bought the personal trainer qualification, bought all these weight equipment, etc., borrowed my dad's bike, and I used to cycle wind, rain and snow up to this little studio on an industrial estate by a prison, training people. And in that 3 years of having that little studio, I built it up into a very successful business, became one of the top personal trainers in the UK, and then decided to double down my efforts by opening my own gym facility, because it gone past the point of, right, okay, I can only do so much of this by myself. And then came the idea for Grenade Fit, and we're 18 months in, and it's been incredible. It's been a huge journey, both in business. I've pushed myself to boundaries which I never knew existed in the last 18 months, and I've learned so much from doing that. And it's so nice now that I'm not coaching people, but I've got lots of amazing trainers around me. We've currently got 24 coaches training people.
It's expanded a lot since I came then. I don't know how many was there then. It was probably about 10 maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, this is both online and in person. So we've
got, great.
We've got great coaches here, and we've got great coaches online too. And we're expanding and growing all the time. We're working with in excess of 400 to 500 new people a month, which is incredible.
Awesome. Yeah, so you're very business savvy, right? So where did you learn? Because you seem to nail it every time when it comes to it. I didn't realize you had your own studio, by the way, for 3 years as well. So obviously you would have learned a lot along the lines there. We're going to wrap this up soon anyway, but I just wanted to ask you one or two more questions. Where did you learn all these business skills? Was it just from like hands-on and
hands-on,
the deep end?
Very much hands-on. Like I opened my little studio to pay my mortgage. That was it. I didn't have any goals to be a very successful businessman or anything. I was very passionate about lots of things. And most people who are very successful, I say, they're not just good at one thing, they're good at multiple things. So one of my talents, one of my many talents, is, I love marketing, I love psychology, and I love training. And, the whole thing about business is just understanding people, delivering value, and caring, I think, is the most important thing. Giving a shit about people, something that I spend far too much time caring about people that don't matter, and that's come to be my downfall, because there's only one of me, and when I first started this gym, I was working sort of 110 hour weeks, and then started to privatize other people over myself. And the kind of flip turn that is that I'm a very selfless person, but the competitor in me is a very selfish person as well. And it's understanding that requires a balance. You can't be too selfless, because you don't prioritize your own your own self and your own health. But you can't be too selfish.
Absolutely.
Either. You know, when you just look after number one, you're not looking after the people around you. So it's understanding that that's a balance. You need to help others, you need to give value, but also need to look after yourself too.
Yeah, great. And that's what I've learned from the podcast game, is giving value. And if there's anything I've learned, actually, that's one thing that the podcasts have taught me, is obviously, you know, having your own podcast is a bit of a grind, right? You know, you're not getting paid initially, you're just giving advice. And the main drive behind it is just to give and just to help people. And that's where I'm at now, really. So, yeah, I can totally relate to that. Right, I've just got a few questions I wanted to fire off you before we finish, right? Some of them are going to be a bit vague, but top 3 tips. Have you got like, or even if it's 2, whatever, a few tips for burning fat, for people to lose body fat and to keep it off? What would you say the 3 most important things? It's probably going to be similar to what I tell people every week, but I need someone like you to tell them.
So exactly what I said with the 3 habits: 10,000 steps a day, drink plenty of water, 3 meals and a snack. And the most important thing to say to yourself, if you can see yourself doing this a year from now, then it's the right thing to do.
Cool. Do you have any rituals, like any morning rituals or anything you do daily which propels you forward?
Okay, so my new ones for 2018, which are working really, really well, is I've always been good with my morning routine. So I get up early, about 5 o'clock. I go for a walk. I've just started meditation. There's an app called Headspace. I do 10 minutes of that a day.
Yeah, I've done that as well.
Absolutely fantastic. And
amazing.
I set myself up to win for the day before I serve others. You can't serve others from an empty vessel. One good thing that I've just started, which I can't believe I haven't done before, is I've always had my morning routine down, but I haven't had an evening routine. So I'll just go through my evening routine. My evening routine is at 8 o'clock, I've got a notification to do what's called Grid Diary. Now, this is a free app as well. As you can see, I'm a bit of an app addict, but they've really helped level up my game. And it just asks me 8 questions. You know, what have you done to contribute to your health today? What have you done to contribute to your wealth today? I would literally just jump it up now. So I get asked 8 questions at 8 o'clock, and it just helps me reflect on the day.
What app is that, sorry?
It's called Grid app. It's called Grid Diary, sorry. So these 8 questions I ask myself at 8 o'clock every night based on the day. So what contributed to your health today? What contributed to your wealth today? How did you become more productive today? Who did you connect with today? Did you breathe or meditate today? Did you do an act of random kindness today? What 2 things are you grateful for? And what can you do tomorrow better that you didn't do today? So 8 o'clock.
Hold you accountable then.
It does, and the thing is, you know, you look back and you look at the things that you haven't done. You know, my health all good, wealth all good, productivity all good with my morning and evening routines. Some days I don't connect with people because I spend a lot of time at home, so it's just making a note to go out and connect with people on those days. Breathe and meditation has been successful. Something I haven't done this entire week in my head is an act of random kindness, and that can literally be anything. But you know, if you've ever gone out there and done something random for somebody without even them asking for it, that's an act of random kindness. That can be anything. I've listened to some great podcasts about somebody who goes into a coffee shop. Let's just say the coffee comes to £3. They give them a tenner and just said, make sure that tenner goes towards the other 2 people behind me for their coffee, and then just walk off and don't own up to it. And a guy sits down and tells them not to tell anyone it was him, and sees their face of that look of confusion but look of gratitude, as in there are some good people in the world. And everyone knows when they've had a random person come up and do a nice thing without wanting anything in return, it does bring back and restore your faith in humanity. So that is at 8 o'clock. 8:30, it's social media down, it's phone down, it's away. Any issue or drama can wait till the next day unless someone's dying, because you know it doesn't matter. And every time that there has been a drama and I've caught up with it the next day, it's more or less been sorted, and I've got a good night's sleep. And obviously, once I've done that, 8:30 in bed, 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock
awesome.
In bed. And what happens is, because I've switched off all my phone and electronic items, I read a book, and a book literally, I read 2-3 pages and it sends me off to sleep. Because if you're sitting in your bed looking at your phone, looking at this big bright screen and all these little things that trigger you, it's going to be an hour later before you go to bed. As soon as you read a paper book in your bed, you will start nodding off and you'll be asleep, and that's been my priority, is to get 7 hours at least sleep a night, and it has literally changed the game with my stress levels, with my energy, and with my creativity.
It works a treat, doesn't it? Yeah, I do that as well. Read in bed, just helps you fall asleep.
Yeah, and I just
as soon as you get that phone out, electrical activity.
Yeah, and I just very much say now, last year I was one of those guys that was like, nah, fuck off, I'm hustling. I only need 5 hours sleep. I need 5, and I'm very good on little sleep. I was in the army for 7 years. We learned to deal. I've done 2 tours of Iraq. Sometimes we were spending 2 or 3 weeks with 2 hours sleep. I'm very good at not having much sleep, but I tell you what, I'm a hell of a lot better with a lot of it.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, same. That's the 3 things you mentioned then. So every day I try and give something. Like you said, it could be anything. Growing, so learning, so listening to podcasts, reading a book, and gratitude. So those 3 things I stick by myself. And also meditation. Started it last year. Again, I didn't get enough consistency with it, so I was just starting to get results and stopped. But now I'm back on that myself as well now, and it just helps so much, man. Meditation, I find. I really started getting the benefits last year, and as I said, I stopped before I started getting really, really good. So now I'm back on that as well. So Awesome, mate. And okay. I'm going to ask you one more question. I'm going to completely mimic Tim Ferriss on this one. When you think of the word success, who springs to mind?
Every person.
Anyone in particular?
No one. Any person that has achieved success against all odds. So any person that would, what inspires me is not uber successful people. It's people who have defied the odds. I've got a good network of friends who inspire me because they've come from nothing and they've worked hard. And what inspires me, I've got a lot of groups on Facebook. What inspires me is a person who was literally too scared to even comment in a Facebook group, and now they're like doing a photo shoot in the gym. To see those kind of people, that to me is success. People who didn't have that confidence before, people who didn't have that motivation before, and who have pushed through that fear and have achieved, to them, fantastic things. Just getting to the gym 3 times a week is success for some people, and that inspires me. It inspires me 100%. A lot.
Okay, thanks a lot for that, mate. So we'll wrap it up there before we go on too much. I could talk for hours about all this stuff, and I've just written down a load of notes myself, mate. So thanks for that. I learned a lot myself. So I hope the listeners enjoyed that, which I'm sure they did. And thank you everyone for tuning in. Jamie, what's your Instagram and whatnot?
So
is it
nice and easy? Just at Grenade J for anything. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, at Grenade J.
Thanks very much. Yeah, and then, guys and girls, if you could just leave if you go to iTunes and leave a rating and review, be massively appreciated. Thank you for tuning in. And once again, Jamie, I really appreciate it, mate.
More than welcome, man.